Hello everyone, I am Claire Sanchez and today I am going to tackle about the remedial instruction in listening. The following are the subtopics that I am going to discuss. Number 1, the difference between hearing and listening. Number 2, factors affecting students' listening comprehension. 3, internal factors. 4, external factors. And lastly, number 5, improving students' listening comprehension. What's the difference between hearing and listening? Let us first define the word hearing. Hearing is passive. It refers to the act of perceiving a sound through the ear. It does not require a conscious effort. Hearing is involuntary, while listening is active. It refers to the act of making a conscious effort to perceive the sound. It requires a conscious effort. Listening is voluntary. So in other words, hearing is simply the act of perceiving sound by the ear. Listening, however, is something you consciously choose to do. Listening requires concentration so that your brain processes meaning from words and sentences. Listening involves hearing. We use our ears to hear and our brain to perceive and understand what the message is trying to convey. Listening requires focus and attention. It is a skill that needs to be developed. Listening, the neglected skill. Except for that fact, this skill is the most neglected. That is why we need remediation. We usually refer those who hear are really listening, but as a matter of fact, they're not. By definition, listening requires focus and attention. We can't hope to lead, motivate, train, or evaluate others without mastering the ability to clearly communicate our thoughts and ideas. We receive more information by listening than by any of the other means of communication, like writing, speaking, or reading, but listening is our weakest skill. Our task as teachers is to help the poor listeners. We have to design a remedial listening session or program for them. Now let us identify the factors affecting students' listening comprehension. What is listening comprehension, by the way? Listening comprehension is a cognitive activity in which listeners, based on their schemata, interpret whatever they listen. Cognitive, defined as an activity related to the acquisition of knowledge, and schemata is the mental scripts or frames developed along our lives based on our experience. In short, listening comprehension is the ability to understand the word and relate to them in some way. First, we have internal factors. It refers to the learner characteristics, language proficiency, memory, age, gender, background knowledge, as well as aptitude, motivation, and psychological and physiological factors. Then, external factors are mainly related to the type of language input and tasks and the context in which listening occurs. Internal factors. Number 1. Problem in language proficiency. These cover problems in phonetics and phonology, like phonetic discrimination and phonetic varieties, problems in grammar, and lexicological problems. Education.com states that language proficiency is a measurement of how well an individual has mastered a language. Proficiency is measured in terms of receptive and expressive language skills, syntax, vocabulary, semantics, and other areas that demonstrate language abilities. If students have poor language proficiency, they will find a hard time interpreting the message they hear. For example, students' pronunciation can often cause embarrassment and inhibit participation in class. Additionally, research has found students who struggle with English also typically see themselves as inferior to their peers. As teachers, we have to help them learn how to pronounce words properly, how to use intonation, and where to place stress and unstressed words in sentences. We can also provide practice on problematic sounds through listening discriminations, sound practice, liaisons, incomplete plosives, and teaching grammar. Number 2. Poor background knowledge. A student's background knowledge in a subject affects his listening comprehension. For example, when you discuss the Mesozoic era, a student with poor listening comprehension may tune out, having no connection to the vocabulary. As you begin to discuss the Jurassic period and mention dinosaurs, however, the student may perk up as he begins to construct meaning based on background knowledge he has gained from books or movies about dinosaurs. Without adequate background knowledge, the student with poor listening skills will have a difficult time accessing difficult information. As teachers, we should prepare students for new or difficult material by reading trade books, showing videos, and breaking down difficult vocabulary into words they can relate to. This is especially helpful for students whose background knowledge may be lacking. Number 3. Lack of motivation to listen. According to Lyle in the year 2002, motivation is the key to all learning. Lack of motivation is perhaps the biggest obstacle faced by teachers, counselors, school administrators, and parents. Motivation has a significant role in teaching learning process. Students learn best when they are motivated. So, remedial teachers should be in cooperation and work together for motivation of students. Only this way the student achieves to fully success in the class about listening comprehension. Number 4. Psychological factors. There are some psychological factors that can affect the student's listening comprehension achievement. There are self-esteem, motivation, self-efficacy, and anxiety. Some factors also are students who have language disabilities. Also, in physiological factors like student who is hearing impaired. Even when listening to someone else speak, an angry person might easily misinterpret the message. Various other emotions like fear, nervousness, confusion, mistrust, and jealousy affect communication process. For example, a person having extreme moods of happiness will laugh at anything at all said to him or her. Number 5. Other internal factors such as age, attention span, memory span, reaction, and sensitivity. Let's proceed to external factors. Number 1. Speed of delivery and different accents of the speakers. The manner in which a teacher speaks may have an effect on listening comprehension. If you use a fast rate of speech, students with listening comprehension difficulties may have difficulty keeping up with the lesson as they try to deal with a known subject matter. Slowing down and speaking distinctly allows the student to focus on the content of the lesson without struggling to keep up. Writing vocabulary words on a chalkboard as they are introduced allows students to see the word in print in case they have difficulty understanding new terms. Repetition, rewording information, and giving examples provides additional support for students who struggle with listening comprehension. For example, in a social studies lesson, reword the concept of intercontinental travel as going from one continent to another, such as going from North America to Europe. Number 2. The content and task of listening materials. This refers to the subject itself and the poor presentation techniques used by the speaker. It also disturbs the listening process. So, we must prepare engaging subjects and techniques for our listeners. Number 3. Context refers to the spatial temporal location of the utterance that is in the particular time and place of the speaker and the particular time and place of the listener. Developing or creating a conducive and comfortable environment for listening is a great help for our students. Number 4. Context, another major factor influencing the interpretation of meaning. It refers to the linguistic context or the textual environment provided by the discourse or text in which a particular utterance occurs. Context constrains the way in which we interpret the response. So, context is the physical situation or the setting, while context is the textual environment. It is a linguistic factor that may affect listening comprehension. Considering this factor, we have to improve the inferring skills of our students. An effective way also to teach them note-taking techniques. For context, example, someone is asking, "Are you coming to Palawan with us?" Then you answered, "I have a paper to finish by Monday." Some listeners may have difficulty interpreting the message because of the textual environment. Thus, it is important to develop their inferring skills. Those are the internal and external factors affecting students' listening comprehension. Next, how to improve students' listening comprehension. These are already mentioned a while ago in our discussion, and these are the techniques that the teacher should use in improving students' listening comprehension. Number 1. Teach pronunciation, stress, and intonation of critical sounds of English. 2. Practice sound discrimination, liaisons, and incomplete plosives. 3. Recognize stressed and unstressed words. 4. Enrich vocabulary. 5. Teach grammar. Number 6. Practice inferring information not directly stated. 7. Improve skills in predicting. Lastly, number 8. Teach note-taking skills. To summarize, listening is an active skill different from hearing. It should not be neglected, and it should be as important as other macro skills. Students' listening comprehension can be affected by both internal and external factors. Thus, teachers, we have to develop techniques on how to improve students' listening comprehension. Thank you for listening, and to God be the glory.